again, going back, so again, we have different offensive tactics. First to be frontal assault from the word front. So they are direct head-to-head confrontation requiring substantial resources. One example would be like two large soda companies, Coke and Pepsi. In the US, meron silang mga advertisement na talagang nagpaparinigan sila. So, talagang blatant yung talagang or masyadong obvious na may pinapatamaan. Okay, ano pa ba? For example, another thing would be yung dito sa Joy, mga dishwashing liquid or dishwashing paste. So, si Joy, papakita niya si brand X na naka-paste form. Alam naman natin na yung isang brand yun na kulay green, si Smart dishwashing paste ang pinapatamaan. Kahit na sinabing brand X, halata naman kung sino yung pinapatamaan doon. So that is an example of frontal assault. Now moving on to flanking maneuver, attack a weaker segment of the market to establish a foothold. So for example, Bean and Brew notices that Starbucks has a stronghold on the premium coffee market. Alam naman natin na worldwide si Starbucks because it has premium, kumbaga, mahal ang mga kanyang mga kape. So Bean and Brew decides to focus on a specific niche, which is organic, fair trade tea. They target customers who are environmentally conscious and willing to pay a premium for ethically sourced coffee. So as you can see, tinarget nila yung isang niche, kumbaga isang subcategory ng mga coffee lovers. So si Starbucks, medyo general siya, lahat kinikater niya. Ang kagandahan dito ni Bean and Brew, tinarget niya yung mga more on sa yung mga environmental or yung gusto nila yung more on the CSR side or nakakatulong sa iba na side. Kaya ang in-offer nila is organic and fair trade coffee. Okay, so ayan, environmentally conscious and kahit na medyo mahal, kasi tinarget nga nila yung mga gustong makatulong sa environment. Okay. So it is they targeted a less saturated segment. Okay. So next one, another thing is a local clothing brand in the Philippines, Bayanihan Threads. So notices that large multinational brands dominate the fast fashion market in the Philippines. So instead na mag-RTW din sila, nag-focus sila sa mga ethically made clothing using traditional Filipino textiles and craftsmanship. So niche na naman siya. Okay? Hindi niya tinarget yung mga RTW na pangmasa. Ito ay tinarget niya yung mga medyo i-spark yung patriotism and nationalism ng kanilang mga customers because they focused on ethically, high quality, ethically made clothing using traditional Filipino textiles and craftsmanship. So, focus sila sa cultural heritage, handcraft design. So, pwede rin nilang ibenta ng mahal kasi biruin mo handcrafted, hindi siya commercialized, hindi siya sa factory ginawa. Kundi, they were handcrafted. Ibig sabihin, yung mga local na weavers, local na tagagawa ng mga fabric, maybe sa mga yung sa Ilocos or sa Benguet or any from other parts in the Philippines na talagang locally made, yun yung kanilang sinors out. Okay? Or in-outsource. Yun yung kanilang mga hinire para gumawa ng kanilang products. Next one is bypass attack. They introduce a new product or service that renders the competitor's offering obsolete. So very good example ang ginawa ni Netflix na kung saan binaypass niya o in-offer niya sa target market ang mga streaming services. So anong nangyari? Yung mga rental stores, dito sa Philippines, si Video City ay nawala. Ang sakit, diba? Kasi na-bypass nga na, kumbaga, dahil sa ginawa ni Netflix na medyo advanced ang technology, naging obsolete si Video City. Hindi siya nakasabay. That is a bypass attack. Okay. Next one is encirclement. Offer a broad range of products or services to dominate the competitor's market. A very good example is Amazon, wherein they sold books originally. Noong una, mga e-books lang ang mga binibenta. But then, over time, they expanded their product lines or product offerings. Naging online shop na sila. Naging electronics, clothing, groceries, yan na yung mga ino-offer. Kumbaga, parang nag-transition sila into similarly Lazada and Shopee. So, anong nangyari doon sa mga kakompetensya niya like Barnes and Noble and Target? Nawala. Kasi nag-focus lang ang mga Barnes and Noble doon sa mga libro lang. Okay, so, encirclement ang tawag doon. Dahil mas marami siyang ino-offer, pas doon na, pas sila na yung naging, sila na yung nag-dominate sa market at mas pinangpili ng kanilang target market. So, moving on to defensive tactics. Okay. So, we have raised structural barriers. They should create obstacles that make it difficult for competitors to enter the market. So, ayun. For example, Google, right? Ang hirap na nilang sabayan si Google na browser kasi ang dami na niyang mga services na ino-offer. Okay. Another example would be Sweet Treats. Kunwari, si Sweet Treats is a local bakery. So, nag-build siya ng strong reputation for its handcrafted cakes. And also, they already have loyal customer base through personalized service and community involvement. So, ibig sabihin, nagkakaroon ng barrier para sa mga competitors na pumasok kasi mahirap na nilang i-replicate or gayahin yung strategy ni Sweet Treats. Kasi nga, mas mapapamahal din sila kung kakalabanin nila si Sweet Treats. Parang ang hirap na nilang i-penetrate dahil nagdo-dominate na sila. Parang kumbaga sa 100% na potential market, kumbaga nasa 60 na sila or 70% ng market ang sa kanila. So mahihirapan na yung mga kasabayan or yung mga future competitors na matalo sila sa market. Next one is increased retaliation. So signal to potential attackers that any attempt to encroach will be met with a strong response. So for example, a large beverage company, for example, Aquafresh, is very dominant in the market share of the bottled water industry. And clinically, aggressive sila na clinically na they offer the lowest price of bottled water. Dahil doon, talagang sinisignal na, kami na yung pinakamababang ino-offer na presyo ng bottled water. Ginagaranti namin na kapag meron pang, kaya namin makipagsabayan. Parang ganon. Kapag may kumalaban sa amin na mababa rin, kaya namin makipagsabayan. So, they've publicly announced a price matching policy, promising to match any lower prices offered by competitors. So, sinisignal ito ng sa mga entrants that Aquafresh will aggressively defend its market share, making it riskier for new players to enter the market. Okay, so, ayan. Defensive nga. Parang pinapakita nila na, kaya namin magbaba ng presyo kasi ibig sabihin, meron kaming competitive advantage over you na entrant. Okay, so next one is lower the inducement for attack. Okay, reduce the perceived profitability. Again, So reduce the perceived profitability of entering the market, making it less attractive to competitors. So, okay, example, a software company, Tech Solutions, offers a subscription-based model for its software. So they also develop strong network of partners who rely on their software. This makes it less attractive for competitors to enter the market, as they would need to overcome Tech Solutions' existing customer base, partner network, and establish brand reputation. Ang pinakamadali lang dito na example ay Microsoft Office na pilit kinakalaban ng WPS, no? Na kahit na kasi nga malaki na yung So again, one example is the Microsoft Office or nagawa ni Windows. As you know, most of our operating system is Windows, right? So automatic na ang compatible na niya is si Microsoft Office. Kahit nakikipag-partner, let's say for example sa mga Huawei products, meron ng built-in or may free na software na WPS, hindi pa rin siya masyadong makasabayan kasi nga malaki na. Kumbaga malaki na yung coverage or malaki na yung na-penetrate ni Microsoft Office. And mas compatible pagdating sa mga devices, mas nakasanayan na. And it will be very expensive for WPS para makipagsabayan. And other office software package. At least si WPS, kinakaya pa naman niya na sumabay by partnering with other electronic devices. Let's say built-in na bago, built-in na libre, yan, yun yung kanilang tactics, no? Yun yung kanilang strategy naman para makasabayan. But still, malayo pa din yung kailangan niyang abutin kontra dun sa naabot na ni Microsoft Office. Okay, so yun yan, lower the investment for attack. So what's the role of budgets in strategy implementation? Of course, as you know, lahat yan may kalakip na pera. Baka mamaya yung strategies hindi naman pala kaya na tustusan nung financial health ng isang company. So financial reality check, budgets reveal the true cost of implementing a strategy. Commitment to goals, budgets demonstrate a company's dedication to its strategic objectives. Kasi syempre nga kapag pinastusan, talagang gagawin niyang lahat para mag-work yung strategy na yun. And measuring progress, budgets provide a framework for tracking the execution of a strategy. I have mentioned in the first lecture, right, na mahirap sa mga multinational companies para i-check or makita yung progress kasi nga may iba't ibang accounting standards. So, ang isa na lang para makita kung may progress ba or matrack yung ginagawa is through budgets. So, of course, may over-budgeting ba or baka naman naging efficient din naman yung pagbabudget, na yung mga natira pa, or may mga na-miss out silang opportunities na gastusan para mas maging okay yung strategy na in-implement. So, budgets is a way for the multinational companies to measure their progress. Procedures, it's the operational blueprint. Of course, through the procedures, merong consistency kasi nga meron ng SOP, Standard Operating Procedures. Lagi yung narinig, SOP kasi namin, ganito, ganyan. Kasi kailangan ng consistency para ma-achieve yung strategy na ginagawa. Supporting strategic change, procedures must adapt to reflect changes in company strategy. Again, hindi porke meron ng SOP na una ay hindi na pwedeng mabago. Again, they have to adapt to reflect changes in company's strategy. Baka yung SOP ay mas pwedeng i-streamline, baka yung SOP ay pwede mas na-improve para ma-achieve yung strategy na yun, pwedeng gawin yun. Okay? And enabling effectiveness procedures help organizations achieve their strategic objectives. Of course, kasi yun na nga yung SOP, yun na nga yung dapat gawin eh. Kumbaga hindi na vague, alam na kung anong dapat gawin. Okay? Achieving synergy in strategy implementation. Of course, if you synergize, kumbaga nag-combine, when you say synergy, it's combining elements and then forming another one, right? Forming it into a stronger version, forming another one into a better version, something like that. That is synergy. So you have a shared know-how, combining knowledge and skills from different units or acquired companies. I've mentioned again in lecture 1, wherein you need to have a strategic alliance. You have to think about who will you partner with. Kasi baka mamaya, parehas kayo ng strengths, hindi rin naman kayo magbe-benefit doon. Kasi nga, parehas yung strength niya, dapat nagko-complement. Dapat yung isa may strength ng ganyan, weakness mo yung ganito, pa-partner ka doon sa may strength doon sa weakness mo. Okay? Para talagang nagtutulungan kung baka merong give and take. Hindi yung parehas kayo ng ginagawa, yung ibang areas na napapabayaan na. Diba? Coordinated strategies, aligning business strategies to reduce competition and improve responsiveness, and share tangible resources, leveraging common resources like manufacturing facilities or R&D labs. So of course, if there's synergy, yung mga resources nag-combine, so mas mapapadali yung progress or development. And again, coordinated strategy, you have to, again, hindi dapat kanya-kanya. Kung meron kang strategic alliance, dapat nag-coordinate kayo, nagtutulungan kayo, hindi yung kanya-kanyang ginagawa. Okay? So next one. Organizing for effective implementation. First is centralized functional structure, suitable for early stage companies with limited product range. When you say centralized, iisa lang yung pinanggagalingan ng, anong tawag dito, isa lang yung pinanggagalingan ng decision making. Kumbaga nasa top management lang or very bureaucratic most of the time ang centralized. Kung sino lang yung nasa headquarters, siya yung mag-i-implement ng lahat ng decision making. Siya yung mag-iisip ng lahat ng strategy organizations or plans. But when you say decentralized or divisional structure, ito na kapag malaki na. Yung centralized, okay pa kung isa pa lang, kukunti pa lang yung branches. For example, nagsisimula ka pa lang, yung headquarters mo nasa Dagupan, tapos may branches ka sa La Union, Tarlac, pwede pang yung centralized, gawin yung centralized na ang headquarters, ang main decision maker ay yung nasa Dagupan kasi yun yung nag-umpisa. Pero kapag decentralized, divisional na siya. One example would be like the DepEd, right? Si DepEd, nationwide yan. Ang dami-daming public schools. For example, dito lang sa Macaldan, may 3-4 na high school, na public high schools. Hindi pa pwede na main lang na DepEd na nasa Manila ang mag-decide. Hindi pwedeng ganun. That's why merong division, di ba? Meron tayong Pang 1 or Division 1 ng Pangasinan, Division 2 Pangasinan, ganun. Kasi merong sarili yun na head. Siya yung magde-decide doon sa nakasakupan niyang mga schools. So for example, si Pang 2, Division Pang 2 kanya. Ang sakop niya, I think, is Mangaldan, Binalonan, Manawag, ayan. Lahat ng mga public schools doon under no Division 2 ng DepEd. Kasi mas maayos, mas mapapadali yun na i-control or i-manage. Lalo na kung ang dami-dami ng branches or ang dami-dami ng offices. Magiging magulo kung centralized pa rin siya na ang main pa rin na DepEd ang mag-decide. Although, of course, pagdating sa mga ibang decisions sa strategy is si DepEd pa rin na nationwide yung nag-isip. Si secretary, di ba, si VP Sara. Siya yung mag-strategize. Ang taga-implement is yung mga division heads naman para mas madali yung pagko-control or pagmamanage. And ma-keep track, mas madali ma-track yung progress. Kung nagagawa ng tama yung mga pinano ni secretary. Ayan. And aligning structure to strategy. Organizational structure should evolve to support the chosen strategy. Again, let's say, meron ng nakasanayan na centralized, hindi pa pwedeng stagnant ka na lang doon. Kung alam mo na kailangan ng mag-decentralize, gumawa ka na. Kasi baka mas magiging mahirap or mas magiging, o mas mag-fail pa yung organization kung nag-stick ka doon sa centralized. So, alamin mo, pag-isipan mabuti kung kailangan na bang mag-evolve o mag-change na ng organizational structure or stick pa din sa dati. Kasi merong mga pros and cons kung itong dalawang type ng structure. Alin ang mas suitable? Okay? So, of course, depende din sa resources. Kung kaya na ba niyang mag-decentralize, ganyan, syempre, mas magastos yun kasi nga mas maraming divisions. Syempre, mas marami ng heads. So, kailangan i-weigh mabuti yung pros and cons before moving on to the next decision. So, that's all. If you have questions, again, i-comment na lang kung interested.